Good evening and welcome to Mindful Life 284. I'm your host Nathan Springer. It's been a while, but I am glad to be here. I'm glad to be back. It is the 26th of September. September still hanging around. September hasn't decided to call it quits quite yet. September is still here among us. I don't mind September finish though. September, I've had my fill. We could see the next month now. Anyway, I'm glad you tuned in. I'm streaming live right now on Instagram, on TikTok, and on YouTube. Thank you guys for tuning in. Double tap that screen over there on TikTok. Hit that like button wherever you are viewing this. If you are viewing this on YouTube and the repeat, hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. Share this. Share this. If you find, hey, this is good content, why more people don't look at this stuff? Well, you could help that by sharing it. Share it to some people who might like this kind of stuff. And lots of topics to talk about since I missed like over a week, a while. I've been missing a while. There are lots of topics. Yeah, by wide leather, it's been a while, man, but I'm back. One of the high points. As of this month, I now have a 14-year-old. Wow. Well, as of this month, I now have a 1-year-old. Slaps knee. Yes, the budget is right around the corner, but I mean, the budget, a lot of the news for the budget really comes in after the budget, but the budget is around the corner right there. Right as October jumps out, the budget is right there. But something that seemed to have taken the country something that seemed to have taken the country's attention for a while was a representative chosen for a particular pageant. A representative chosen to represent our nation who wasn't or who isn't a national. Now, I've seen a lot of people talk about this, and some people say like, why is this an issue? Why is this an issue? There are so many more serious topics to talk about in Trinidad and Tobago. Crime is rampant, the cost of living is going up, salaries are not. There are so many important issues, and we are here talking. The watchwords are, I've got to go, I've got to leave. Younger than the PM but older than his daughter. Yeah, many people were saying that this is such a nothing topic. But you see, you have to understand, to me, what people are attracted to, the things that grab people's attention. So if you are familiar with the United States and their politics, you hear regularly these days they're talking about things like the culture war. They talk about the culture war, and culture war issues are almost always more front burner than policy issues. If you're being honest, more people would pay attention to a Venezuelan national representing Trinidad and Tobago in a pageant than they would to the Bail Amendment Act. And that's just reality. Cultural topics draw attention because cultural topics, cultural realities are what it's the water that people swim in. It's the water that they're swimming in 24/7. This is what is always around them. So it's what they pay attention to a large extent. So to pretend like these issues do not carry some weight, I think is it's just dishonest really and truly with reality. They obviously carry some weight, as we saw, and there are reasons for this. I think there are obvious reasons for this. Human beings, and we naturally have what you call in-group bias. We are biased to people inside of our group by and large. I think the only group that really doesn't have much in-group bias is one very weird white American group, but basically every other group of human beings on planet Earth that has ever existed, they have some amount of in-group bias. Now, you could choose your group differently. There are different ways to split your group, but the reality is groups, at least in groups, by very nature of what they are, cannot be humongous. That's why, like, these modernist people, when they speak about things like the global community, you have to pull back a little bit, because by very nature of what a community is supposed to be, it's nearly impossible for the entire globe to be a community. global community isn't really a thing. You have common cultures with your in-group, and that's just how humans function. We have our in-groups, and now we could split our in-groups different ways. There are racial in-groups, there are ethnic in-groups, there are religious in-groups, there are national in-groups. And now for Trinidad and Tobago, countries like ours, we had a unique history where our in-group was formed artificially to some extent when it comes to the national side of things. So when you look over in Africa right now and you're seeing the coups that are jumping up every other day, part of the reason is because Africa's in-groups were cemented there, or have been cemented there, for thousands of years. Who knows how many thousands of years? Good evening, Curvon. Yeah, bro, it's been a while. Who knows how many thousands of years some of those African in-groups were there? The tribes, they were in their tribes. They have their own in-groups that were there before the colonial powers. They lasted through colonialism, yes, and they still last to this day. So whenever there's some kind of friction, whenever there's difficulty in the country, it's easy for some of those older tribal in-group lines to tear apart the country. Now in Trinidad and Tobago, we had an amalgam of many different tribes in the first place, brought underneath a very restrictive regime. So to some extent, it's difficult for us to get some of the same difficulties that Africa has. We don't have tribes of people that have strong in-group biases for thousands of years, at least not major tribes and clans. We don't have that here in Trinidad and Tobago. To some extent, that could be seen as a benefit, where we now have the ability possibly to create our own in-group, the TRINI in-group, the Trinidad and Tobago National in-group, where we have our own TRINI identity. Now, the problem there is, how do you identify this TRINI identity? What is the TRINI identity? What makes it anything different from anything else? You see, for there to be an in-group, there needs to be barriers to the group. For if this is the group, what defines the group is the barrier of the group. If there are no barriers to the group, you can't define the group. So the kind of idea that the only way you could really be kind is by letting everyone into the group, then there is no group. So every human being is not a TRINI. A TRINI has to be defined as something. There has to be something to define the national identity. Otherwise, there will be no national identity. And the problem is, I think, and I regularly talk about this, that some of the remnants, some of the echoes of colonialism that we still deal with have to do with the fact that having that holistic national identity is a bit more difficult. There are many people who do not act or behave or think like Trinidad and Tobago is theirs. This is mine. This is my motherland. This is my homeland. This is where my ancestry is based. Many people do not think, act, or behave like that. That makes it difficult. And then, if now we are trying to establish this kind of identity, but while we are trying to establish the TRINI identity, we are also at the same time saying everyone is a TRINI. How do we establish a concrete identity? What does it even mean? Who used to say who is more patriotic? Patriotic to what? You must be patriotic to something. What do you mean by patriotism? Patriotism as in that kind of loyalty and fervor towards your nation. What is this nation that you are loyal to? Is anyone who sets foot on Trinidad soil a TRINI? That you now must be patriotic and pull into your in-group? And this is not how the world works. This has never been how the world works. You know, an example to just throw out there that I've been seeing going around on Twitter not too long ago. Some young lady got allegedly hit with a brick in her face or something like that, and she was upset that no one jumped in for her. And there was a conversation about men being protectors in society, and men are no longer protectors of the women. You know, men don't protect women anymore. And many people were drawing it to the reality, to the historical reality, that men don't protect women. Men never protected women. Men protected their women, by and large. The men of this in-group protected the women of this in-group. Men couldn't just go out there throwing away their lives for any and every woman anywhere in the world. That's just foolish. You aren't king superhero. That's not how it works. And that's where in-groups become actually important. So, okay, I may be called to sacrifice some of my wealth in terms of taxes to help my fellow Trinis. If I feel affinity towards my fellow Trinis, that's an easier ask for me. It's easier for me to give to people that I think are closer to my in-group. That's human reality. You could try to deny it if you want, but it still remains being human reality. And when you destroy the very definitions, the boundaries of what makes the in-group, what do you expect to come out of that? Browsing this, and I personally find the article kind of ridiculous, to be very honest with you, kind of ridiculous. This article here. Why isn't it pulling up over on my YouTube? Milady, TNT will always be my first love. I think accent, language, understanding of popular local culture, and the expression of allegiance, at least you define something, Kevon, are crucial components. And I kinda agree. Like, I was reading an article here where there was a murder in Chase Village. The murder wasn't actually the story I'm coming to, but the murder happened at an apartment building where there were several Venezuelan tenants there. And when the newspaper quoted these Venezuelan tenants saying what happened, I'm trying to see if I could pull up this article, saying what actually happened there. If you see the language, you understand exactly that some Venezuelans buy fully into the Trini culture. I've got the article. Just look at some witness statements here. Another Venezuelan migrant who did not want to be identified said the man had visited earlier in the evening to drop something and then returned around 8 p.m. Listen to this. I don't know the man. He is a supervisor at a construction site in Sangre Grande. That's all we know, because my friend and she brother does work for the man. We don't know where he live, but this is frightening. Full Trini lingo. And here's the issue, Wide Leather. Even if you are of the view that some migrants may actually fit that bill better than some local people, I kind of agree with you. But what I might say is, it does not seem like this was one of those migrants. When she spoke, she didn't speak like these guys that were at the apartment building. She needed a translator and didn't know the watchwords. But she says TNT will always be her first love. Like, first love mean in a case like that? And in this article, coming down to the end of the article, the reason I wanted to read it is they quoted this quote that a lot of people like to use in modern times. Trinidad and Tobago's greatest strength lies in its diversity. I have never completely understood what people mean when they say that. Our diversity is our strength. What does that mean? What do you mean by that? What kind of diversity? What kind of diversity strengthens us? How diverse should we be? What does that mean? Our diversity is our strength. And you know, strange enough, lots of the people who use that quote and say things like our diversity is our strength, when they talk, those same people, you ask them about the countries that are doing the best in the world, they regularly talk about countries like Norway and Sweden and Denmark and Iceland. And if you know something about those Scandinavian countries, you understand that diversity is not their strength. They are not diverse at all. To some extent, in fact, diversity is a weakness. To some extent. Because, as we said, as we started speaking about, there is something called in-group preference, in-group bias. So when you have very diverse groups interacting together, you get some sparks flying very regularly. If you look very often, some of the more violent countries are usually diverse countries. Ronnie says, I saying it big. It's a weakness. It is a sickness. Well, I wouldn't say it is necessarily a weakness, because some diversity does add strength. There are certain ways that you could be diverse that would add something to the strength of the country. Getting diverse portfolios, like, okay, if everyone in the country did engineering, that wouldn't be a strength per se. We would need some people to probably do some medical, some medicine. We need some regular technicians out there. You know, there's some diversity required in different fields. What are the books on your shelf? Many different books, many of them textbooks too. So, but on a holistic sense, the diversity is our strength thing I never quite got it. I never quite got what exactly they're trying to say. And I get the feeling very often that it's just a convenient thing. Diversity in terms of ethnicity. Diversity in terms of ethnicity is our strength. Why? How? And I get the feeling very often it feels like it's just a cover term used to get whatever motive some people want in there. That's the idea. And like, I mean, personally for me, beauty pageants are always a strange thing. Beauty pageants have always been a strange thing. Like, one of the funniest things to me is watching feminists battle with beauty pageants, because a beauty pageant kinda is a cow show, an animal show. You strut out there, you spin your stuff. They generally are looking for the best looking person. It's as they call a horse and pony show. It's a very strange thing in the first place. But then, with a beauty pageant already being the very strange thing it is, beauty pageants are a remnant of a time gone before, trying to exist in modern times. That's why beauty pageants seem to mean nothing anymore so very often. If this beauty pageant is supposed to say who is the most beautiful person, How do you expect trainees to feel anything but insulted when you choose somebody who has been a trainee for 5 years as the most beautiful trainee? Like, it's insulting. It is insulting. Just what is said and what isn't said there is insulting. But as I said, the beauty pageant on a whole is a very strange thing. I didn't watch the pageant, Trini Hotep. Beauty pageants aren't my thing. That's why I'm talking about this on the principle side of taking abstractions from this, because I don't care for beauty pageants. I don't care for. She could say what she wants. Just the pageant people with the name Stolen Productions, I believe. Stolen Productions. It kind of assess meaning drugs, susu, like. Where do you people choose your names from? But SPL, Stolen Productions, they seem to be on a very PR heavy motive. So that's 6 years. Alright. But be that as it may, however long, to choose somebody who has recently been here as being the most beautiful trainee is an insult. It is. But as I was saying, that's what beauty pageants are. Beauty pageants are such a strange thing. They are such a strange thing because we exist in a world now where we are supposedly battling with racism and colorism and the biases of hair texture and the biases of body size and fat shaming and slut shaming and all of those things. So, how do you judge beauty now? If you can't fat shame someone, how do you judge a bikini contest? What is it based on? And then, if you're saying that the world cannot be colorist, you cannot be biased based on the level of melanin in people's skin, is it then that beauty competitions are going to have to get a quota of dark, light, and mixed tone, and they share out the winnings based on that quota? Because if more light-skinned people are winning, that may be colorism. Are you saying that fair-skinned people are more beautiful than dark-skinned people? We can't make statements like that. Like how? Pageants mean nothing in these days. A man in a pageant, a man in a woman's pageant, and he wins as the most beautiful woman, a whole man. Pageants mean nothing. Just by the way, they mean nothing anymore. In modern times, they just can't work. The politically correct narratives that we have running now, they just don't work along with beauty pageants. Beauty pageants, for a beauty pageant to be, and everyone feels it, beauty pageants don't have the fervor they once did. I am a 90s guy. I remember in the 90s, those young ladies in the 90s, beauty pageants were a serious thing. A Miss Universe competition grabbed global attention. The eyes of the world watched a Miss Universe finals. Now, maybe the eyes of a couple gay nightclubs might tune in occasionally to watch the end of a pageant or something like that. It just lost its appeal, because I think many people understand now the brutal reality of what a pageant was supposed to be, to even be moderately entertaining. It left. They still have relevance in Latin America and Asia. Well, yeah, but then if you could imagine you're in Latin America really serious about your pageant and go up to Europe and some man wins it from you with a hand big like a baseball mitten and a Adam's apple. See now, Adam's apple, sorry. Oh my goodness, thank you so much for this. sure. It's just not going to work in modern times anymore. The world that as it is, it's like, if you think about it, beauty pageants to some extent were like female sports, women's sports. And no offense to y'all women, but women ruin their own sports. They ruined it. They killed the actual bitter competitive edge out of it. They didn't want the edge because the edge hurts feelings. The edge hurts feelings. Fat people can't get in, short people can't get in. Maybe if you're a little splotchy, you can't get in. You have to be able to talk properly, etc., etc., etc. But no, that hurts people's feelings, so we can't do that, and you kill the competitive edge. It's like if men watch football and we're like, football is too hard. It's too hard on the fat men out there. There are so many fat men struggling, wanting to be footballers. Let them in. You'll kill the sport. You will kill the sport. Anyway, as we're talking about us and Venezuela and getting into deals and stuff, we signed the Dragon Gas deal, apparently. TNT Venezuela sign deal to share gas profits. TNT Venezuela signed deal to share gas profits. Trinidad and Tobago that's a couple nights ago, signed a profit sharing agreement with Venezuela to export gas from the Dragon field. President of the South American nation Nicolas Maduro has said Energy Minister Stuart Young, in a post to his Facebook page, confirmed the situation by sharing a social media post by Maduro stating historic moment at Miraflores, Caracas, Venezuela. Trinidad and Tobago and the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, as good neighbors and brothers, we have taken a gigantic step with the signing of the agreement to work the Dragon field in Venezuelan waters that will lead us to produce together a project that is lost from sight. It is a message of peace, of complementarity, solidarity, exercised and shared sovereignty, Maduro posted. So yeah, we signed the Dragon deal. Nathan, I beg you, look at the other contestants in that pageant. No thanks. Ronnie, thanks for the offer, but no, I have no interest in looking at those other contestants. I seriously don't. No, I told you all, pageants are not my thing, you know. I do not be mistaken by me speaking about this. I do not look at pageants. The last pageant I probably watched was, hey, look Wendy. That was a TRINI woman. Now we talking TRINI woman there. Wendy Fitzwilliam. Now we talking about... Anyway, let me not get into this. We talking Dragon Gas here. We talking Dragon Gas. The comedy is be the male competition. Anyway. But I saw the former energy minister speaking about this too. That's his name, Kevin Ramnarine, I believe. And he was pointing out something very pertinent with this. We don't even know exactly how to feel about this whole thing, you know. We hear Dragon Gas deal signed, but what does that even mean? How much gas are we getting? How much money are we getting? What is the arrangement going? All of this is shrouded in mystery. We don't know. We are supposed to hope that this is good news, but we don't actually know how much of good news it is. That's just the reality of politics, and this is why these issues don't grab attention as much as the pageant holder being a Venezuelan. Because it's a lot more difficult to understand. The information is a lot harder to come by. It's a lot more complex and nuanced. Nobody has time to go and research where the dragon feel, what dragon, what, and oil and what. No. It makes no sense. Let's leave that alone. Let's see that wine, Mr. Trinidad. And hello, stop it, please. Hello, we're not going down that road. We are not going down that road. We are talking about our mutually signed agreement with Venezuela. And you know, it's interesting also because Venezuela and Guyana recently have been having quite a bit of friction. Venezuela and Guyana for a while had some friction. Apologies. Venezuela and Guyana for a while had some friction going on over their border crises, etc., etc., etc. And they, especially with the finding of oil there's now even some renewed bacchanal brewing with Venezuela and Guyana, and what they are seeing with each other. Because Venezuela, please read my previous comment. How do you think that will benefit the economy? Give PNM a chance to curry favor for votes. I don't know, Anika Nicole. That's what I said. I have no idea, and that's the nature of these things. The Dragon Deal is their privacy statements. Their, what you call this thing, that they sign, non-disclosure, NDs that they sign. So they literally cannot even tell us what is going on there. They literally cannot even tell us. So as it is, it would be a talking point for elections, but I don't even know if they could point to anything tangible come election time and say, okay, Dragon Gas deal has brought in XYZ. I don't know. And very often, like with those things, the deal could be a bit complicated, because it's not like Trinidad and Tobago, the country, is hiring our own team to go extract the gas. I believe it would be Shell, the multinational company, that would be extracting that gas, using Trinidad as the go-between to process it and sell it, etc. And I believe what Trinidad might get out of that may be the taxes as a result of what Shell does. And we'd have to split that, I presume, between Trinidad and Venezuela. But all of this is conjecture. We don't know how directly it benefits us. Current cabinet loves their NDs, and I spoke about this when the Dragon Deal first popped up, and to me that's one of the problems with the Dragon Deal and with governments being inside of business in the first place. That's one of the difficulties with it, because as an individual person, if you are out there making your own business, then I don't care if you have a non-disclosure agreement. You don't have to tell me your business. I don't care. You do your business with your money. How you spend your money, keep it privately if you so see fit. But the problem is with governments is it's not the government's money. The government would be making these deals with people's money, the public's money, and then they have privacy agreements. They have privacy agreements inside of the deal that they aren't using their own money on. It does seem a bit strange. How could you be secretly making a deal but using my money? It seems like, I am having to put a lot of trust in you, and I don't generally trust you that much. I really don't. So how is that going to work? The Venezuelan president was lamenting about Guyana, and this is a reality to some extent. This is a reality that Guyana is making deals with Exxon, and now bear in mind there's history between some of these multinational oil companies and Venezuela. There's a long and storied history with some of these companies, because when Venezuela went across to the left side of things, they kicked out some of these companies, seizing their assets, seizing resources. So some of these companies have a vendetta, or may have a vendetta. Let me don't say have a vendetta. They may have a vendetta with Venezuela, and that's what the Venezuelans are claiming to some extent. They're saying that Guyana is becoming, as it were, a client of Exxon, and they're allowing Exxon to stir up some of these malcontent behaviors. But Guyana is saying, well, we are saying this is our land, this is our area, and we demand the ability to use it as see fit. That's going to be interesting as things go on, I think. White Leather says it's either we want transparency or not, and the government has made its pick. Here's the thing: I don't think it's really an issue of transparency or not. I think it's an issue of government in business or not. Because if government is in business, that is how business is run. That's the nature of business. For business to run successfully, all matters of business in negotiation and contracts cannot be made public to the entire world. It just would not work out. But then that makes the problem be, to me, where the problem is there is the government inside of the business in the first place. The nature of the government being a user of the public purse makes it difficult for them to then act in a private capacity. And that's why I am not for this government ownership of so many different things. It makes complicated dealings inside of the country. You will not expect any entity. Not going to happen. We aren't going to eat our cake and still have it in that case. It's just not how business is run. And I can't blame the business. I really cannot. Stepping into some local crime news though, well, not crime news, but policing news. An interesting story from the Southland here. And this, I think, could be a reiteration of why I say things like, I would prefer a sheriff style of law enforcement in Trinidad, where the law enforcement isn't headquartered in Port of Spain, where one person in Port of Spain can make a decision that affects crime fighting down in Barrackpore. I would like that the local Barrackpore sheriff is in control of law enforcement down in Barrackpore more. And let's look at the story and see what we're talking about there. Station council objects to transfer of senior cop. Officials of the Princestown Police Station Council have appealed to Police Commissioner Earl Herwood Christopher to rethink a decision to transfer Senior Superintendent Richard Smith from the Southern Division. At a media briefing on Saturday, Council President Oral Suknanan said the move could reverse progress made during Smith's tenure to reduce crime across the division. Smith is due to take up a new posting in the Northern Division from tomorrow. Suknanan said Smith, who lives in the Southern Division, they're moving the guy to the Northern Division. He lives in the Southern Division. Alright, was familiar with the district's operations and has built successful partnerships with residents who had grown confident enough to share information via his open door policy. So he did what many police are failing to do. He built a relationship with residents. The residents of the area are saying, we trust this man, and they're transferring him out. Every time we have something that works and is starting to work, somehow, to me, they dismantle it and they move him from one district to a next, he complained. If we do not have consistency in this district or in any other district, how could we fight crime? Members of the council said in each district in the Southern Division, Smith had re-established station councils where residents and police officers got together to discuss issues affecting communities. Right now, it is working, and like him, they all have open door policies, Suknanan said. His views were echoed by Tyrone Nanan, the business representative on the Princestown Station Council, who said the business people are not happy because after 1 year of working with him, we are very confident in him because we have seen the level of crime decrease in the southern area. To lose someone like that is going to be a very tough thing. Nanan said the Christmas season is approaching. Crime is everybody's business. He said Smith's transfer could cause chaos for the business people, as many of them had applied for firearm users licenses and had been turned down. Again, we see in Trinidad, that's how they drop it in Trinidad and Tobago. No, you don't defend yourself. We are going to defend you, but we're going to do it halfway. In response to calls for him to remain in the Southern Division, Smith explained the rationale behind the commissioner's decision. He said Harewood Christopher was strategically setting her field now, so persons will have to move to accommodate what she intends to achieve. He added, I am one of the persons she has identified to move around to achieve certain things in the area. They want to buffer areas with high crime rates so we can get those areas to acceptable levels at least. Smith said in an attempt to curb murders and serious crimes, the Commissioner of Police is pumping more resources and as well as changing around some of the First Division officers. I hate ideas like this. This is a class of 15 people. A child is disruptive, bad behaved, a bad child. And the teacher spends 3/4 of the day giving that child attention. And if a child behaves properly, they are left to suffer. So the man is setting in roots in the Southern Division. It seems like he knows what he's doing. You have problems in the Northern Division. So you take him out from the Southern Division, replace him with the guy that led the Northern Division, and send him up there. But because then the question to ask is, can an effective system be set up so that it can function independently without relying on a single person to independently run it? Yes. The answer is yes. Obviously, yes. Obviously, the answer is yes. Each country has their own law enforcement and they still function together too. They're literally switching the leadership. He assured that he will continue collaborative initiatives as part of his commitment to community and country. Smith will be replaced by Senior Superintendent Brian Ramphal of the Northern Division. So they're switching the Southern and Northern Divisions. This is why I hate the idea of politicians and nearly anyone having control over your life like this. People in the Southern Division are dealing with life and death. These are their businesses. These are their homes. And you are out there shuffling around chess pieces to, trying to see what could work. The Northern Division gets some murders. Southern Division guy seems like he knows what he's doing. Switch that around. And if there's a spike in murders in the Southern Division, you look at that, there's a 10% spike in the Southern Division. Yeah, shucks, man. It seemed like that didn't work. But that 10% spike in murders in the Southern Division are families that lost loved ones. Why, it's just a number on a paper for the bureaucracy of the police, the higher ups that, they're just shuffling around things. Numbers on papers. That's people's lives. Anika Nicole says, instead of learning what the man is doing, exactly. If what the man is doing is working in South, instead of taking the man and carrying him away, take the man's technique, take his principles, take his format. Because they nearly can't demote Rooney, demotion nearly never occurs. Because it's a ridiculous enterprise. How are you to feel in South? The guy from North that seems to have been failing is now headed to South. And the guy from South that was making progress is headed to North. Yep. politics. This is going to be a whole mess. Well, we'll see. We'll see. We will see. And I mean, people's eyes are open. So I suppose a lot of people will be looking at that to see exactly how it's all going to turn out. I would be looking, I could tell you that. There may even be accusations of deliberate political interference. I know that, Anika Nicole. You don't have to tell me that, because South is known to be a bigger stronghold for the UNC. There's already a common trope, a common narrative in Trinidad and Tobago, where the urban youth are the ones that are aiming at the East Indian businessmen. So if some urban youth start to increase robberies and targeting of Southerners, who are more likely to be East Indian and UNC supporting, just by matter of probability, would they be wrong in feeling like the government structure, government system did it on purpose? Would they be wrong in feeling like that? And there's already the common trope that the urban youth belong to the PNM. The urban youth are the PNM children. If you read enough comment sections, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, if I have grown up listening to this narrative, it's the narrative I know. The urban youth are PNM Rowley children. They are aiming to rob me. The head of my division was making progress in crime. They removed him to carry him in the north to police the urban areas. They bring the urban area guy down south. If urban youth start to rob me, how could I not see it as the PNM set it up to let the PNM youths come and take my money? How would I not see it that way? Like, I struggle to see how to not see it that way if that was the narrative I grew up in. That is the most straightforward conclusion that would be drawn. And you could wonder, I would hope it's a wrong conclusion, but you could wonder. You know, one of those razors, is it Occam's razor, do not attribute to malice what could be explained by incompetence. So you could say maybe it's not on purpose, it's just incompetence, or the old way of running things, transfer this one there, transfer this one there. Maybe. But if you are the person in the fire, you are the person feeling the brunt of this, it's going to be very hard to convince you it's not malice. It's going to be very difficult. Anyway, folks, first live back in a while. That's all I have for now. I'm not going too long this evening. That's all I have for now. I hope you guys were educated, informed, or entertained. Any further comments or questions inside of the live? No questions or comments? Alright, folks, as Trini Hotep says, be mindful, not mindless. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. That's all I have for now. I'm Nathan Springer. Thank you guys for tuning in. I will be here again tomorrow evening. Yes, I'll be here again tomorrow evening, Wednesday, for the next Mindful Live. Wednesday evening, look out for me around 9. I know tonight was a bit late on the return, but I should be here around, no, tomorrow's Wednesday. 9:30 tomorrow, actually. I'll be here 9 on Thursday, 9:30 tomorrow. And I'll see you guys then. I'm glad you tuned in. I hope you're educated, informed, and entertained for the third time. And as per usual, this was brought to you by Mindful Education. If you all guys are looking for those classes, those learning pods, homeschool style education, if you're looking for one-on-one tutoring for more CXC or CAPE subjects, be sure to hit us up. I will see you guys in the next one. I hope you stay safe, stay well. Laters. I'm out. Peace. Hold it down, people.